Hello and welcome to the Gooner Tool. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our TGT Expert Members podcast show, in which I'm joined by three of my fantastic expert members to get their thoughts on all of the latest Arsenal news, and as well as joining in with our live chat as always. And we've got some interesting stuff to talk about as we finally break into the 2021 season. We're going to discuss all of that, as well as some news about Martinez, and looking ahead to a possible Aouar update, as Lee Judge is going to get much better at saying it in the future. I've actually got him on a training regimen of how to say Aouar's name, and he's still struggling after 6 hours. But I'm hoping we're going to see some improvement very soon. So let's jump into it. My boys, how are we doing, fellas? Let's run through the lineup that we've got this evening. First off, he kept us waiting in classic Drew style, but he's here now. Carter Stage, it's nice to have you on the show, mate.
Hey, nice to finally meet you guys and talk to you. It's good that I upgraded to expert member so that I can share my opinions rather than shouting and screaming in the comments.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you on the show, mate. Really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to join us. Do you want to just give the users a little bit of an intro to sort of how you got into being an Arsenal fan? Because you're based in Cologne right now, that's right, yeah?
Yeah, I'm based in Cologne. Back in '99, I was in India, and my dad used to support Man United, so I wanted to go against him. And the first match I watched was, just rebelling. I was, 99, 6 years old. So just like, screw Man United, I'm going to support Arsenal, and they were playing them. And I wasn't into them so much, but one day I saw Newcastle, Bergkamp goal against Newcastle, and I was sold. It's just heart went out to Arsenal, and it's been 21 years now, and still supporting them, crying about them, moaning about them, and continuing to do the same.
It's a memorable moment, to be fair. It would inspire many, many people into becoming Arsenal fans. Second up, we've got Rob. How you doing, mate? Are we good? Oh, that's my fault. I've muted you.
You've muted me. That's all good, mate.
Idiot that I am. Sorry, Rob. Go on, mate.
No worries. No, we're excited to be chatting Arsenal. I mean, things are looking up these days compared to the last few years, right? I've supported the club for just a little bit. I've supported the club for 30 years now. As you might see in the background, that's a signed Arsenal shirt from the 1996 team, so Arsene Wenger's first season. Been to quite a few amazing matches, Arsenal Barcelona, Arsenal Man United. I was there when we won the league in 2002, and looking forward to chatting Arsenal right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing earlier. I was like, I am shocked that shirt is not framed and protected.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be. I feel like we're going to talk about this. You need to get it protected, mate. It's unbelievable, people.
Yeah, it's even worse when you hear that I wore it at Old Trafford.
Wow. Well, fine. Strutting around. Look at me with all my signatures.
Apologies.
Stuff. No, it's all good, mate. All good. Pleasure to have you on the show. And finally, finishing up our lineup, it's Ed, aka Easy Isle. You may have seen in our chat box quite a few times. How are we doing, Ed? Are we good?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Thanks for the invite.
No problem at all. Do you want to give people a little bit of insight into how you became an Arsenal fan over there in big old NYC?
Actually, I'm a little upstate, out of the city, but my roommate from college and good friend from high school had a job over in North London. Moved over, kept wanting us to come over, visit and stuff, and finally made my first trip over in May of 2002. Literally my first day in London. He took me to an Arsenal, like a home bar. Watched the game against Man U to take the title. It was before that. As an American, it's much easier to watch games now, but it was. I couldn't believe the reaction. The whole scene, the whole place. There was a. I just remember after Wiltor scored, there was about an 80-year-old guy just crying, just looking up at the sky and literally just crying. I was there. I'm in, and I've been in ever since. So.
I'm massively envious of how it's easier for people across the pond to watch Arsenal games than it is for us here in the UK. I get the theory, I understand the whole 3 o'clock embargo, but I just, you can't help but be a bit jealous especially when you can't get to the games. And fingers crossed, even though the pandemic's going on, we will see more 3 o'clock games televised whilst it's going on. But I digress. Let's kind of jump straight into the content that we're going to talk about today. And the first one is the news that broke yesterday evening regarding Emi Martinez. Now, we're less than a week out now into the first game of the season, and if you'd have asked me sort of who would be the goalkeeper at the start of the season after the FA Cup, I had no doubt in my mind, no matter how fit Leno was, for me it was going to be Emi Martinez that was going to be between the sticks. Ed, I'm going to go reverse order and start with you, mate. In regards to Martinez, are you a little disappointed to possibly see the Argentine leave?
My feeling, he's put in a lot of years, and if he's going to go, I mean, he's been behind everybody. So if he's thinking it's time, because he's not going to get the starts, I loved watching him. It's amazing the last couple of months he's had. I love that the ball just sticks to him. Think of that, that glove against Liverpool where kind of shot against the grain and just stuck his left paw out and it just doesn't move. So I get, but yeah, I think Leno's better in the long run. I think he's worth more for a reason, and Arsenal's letting Emi go for a reason, and he wants to go. So no, he's served his time. So on the human side, no, I think he's totally right to go, and it's probably the time to do so.
I get that in the side of him being the right time to move on. He needs to secure first team football for next season for sure. He wants to be the Argentinian international #1 as well. And you're never going to be that, even with the deluge of poor talent they've got in that position in the Argentine national team. There never seems to be a good Argentinian goalkeeper around. But he wants to secure that, and you still won't be able to do that without first team football. And Rob, the issue I have with this is that Arsenal are looking at possibly replacing him by spending a fair chunk of the money that we would bring in. And if I was to put to you to say that we get 18 odd million quid for him, but then we spend 15 million of that on his replacement, is it really worth even moving him on?
I personally think, in my humble opinion, that I would actually rather sell Leno of the two. The reason being is that he'll generate more cash, and what we need at the minute is money. And I actually think Martinez is a better keeper anyway. Personally, that's my, like I said.
No, go for it. That's what we're here for, mate.
But in terms of money, and that's what we need right now. If we get 18 million for Martinez, we could probably get 25 million. Let's say maybe 30 million push for Leno. If Bayern Munich are looking or someone like that. And that's what concerns me a little bit. Maybe it doesn't make business sense more than anything else.
Yeah, I get that. I think that I would have rather have seen Leno move on for a decent sized fee. The issue is it always is with these Arsenal players, is who's going to put that money down for these players. And I always kind of had the idea that Bayern Munich might come in for him as the long-term Manuel Neuer replacement. And Drew always used to hit me on the head with a big hammer whenever I said that, because he just couldn't see Leno going to Bayern Munich. But I just couldn't get out of my head that they look at him as a real long-term option. Carter, let's kind of round off this section then, talking about Martinez himself. And if he was to move on, the replacement is going to be seemingly this David Raya, or we're also seeing Alfonso Areola from PSG being a loan move today too. What sort of route would you want Arsenal to go down to replace him? Do you think Arsenal need to spend money on a permanent signing, or for this season alone, knowing how much we need to reinvest with the player sales that we make, do you think a loan deal for a goalkeeper is a more favourable option?
Yeah, loan deal would be a favorable option, but if we are selling, Martinez, we should actually ask for more, because I remember him saving that Mahrez's shot on target during Man City versus Arsenal FA Cup semi-final. It reminded me of that movie Shaolin Soccer. Do you remember the opposition team keeper jumps up and stops the ball in one hand? It basically was like that on the floor. So that guy has good control with the ball. It doesn't pop out like where it happens to Leno. And Bayern Munich are always a core German team, as you were saying, and Leno would be a good option because Neuer is going to play for 1 or 2 years. And I'm never going to see Leno represent Germany apart from like being a second keeper in the team, because Ter Stegen is going to take that place easily after Neuer leaves. In that case, right now, Bernd Leno is at his peak. I think we need to cash in on him, as Robert said, rather than Emmy, because Emmy looks hungry. He wants to play for Argentina, so he's going to give it everything so that he plays. Leno is never going to make it into the first set of keeper until and unless Ter Stegen is injured. So I don't see Leno having a good chance at making a Germany and him giving a push, but I see Martinez working hard to give that push. But if at all he goes, we have to like sell him for more money just than 20 million pounds, like at least
Right.
like another 10 million pounds for add for it and get someone on a loan or something just for this season and later see if we
So
need
you think Martinez is worth that £30 million mark? Is that how much you think he should be going for?
Yeah, he might not be going for that price because of him. He's not representing any national team. I get that, but still, I guess he should go for more money. He's been putting in performance. He's been stopping a lot of people, and he's taking care of all of these pacey runners who come towards him, and he stops them. Literally, he stopped 2 goals in that community shield match. If not, Liverpool should have been like what? It's supposed to be 3-1 to Liverpool if he hadn't stopped those two, which Mane went through.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we kind of talk about market value on the show quite a bit. It might be worth, because you might see that sometimes I get a little bit blinkered with my own views and hearing my own thoughts on the podcast and stuff. And I'm very much of the view of being very realistic about what players are worth. And I suppose it's a good idea to get some of your guys' thoughts on that. Ed, in terms of like market value for players, Martinez, for me, I'm still about 10 million off what Carter's saying. I feel that market value wise, 20 million is probably a good deal. If you'd have said to me 12 months ago, we're going to sell Emmy Martinez for 20 million quid, I would have laughed your head off because I would have no idea that this guy would be worth anywhere near that. So in terms of sort of market value, how do you judge players and then specifically Martinez?
Well, a year ago we would have taken 10 for him probably, right? Like never mind 20. So if it's always you hear people yell about market values, but realistically, if you're another team, you've got what, maybe 2 months worth of tape on this guy, and he's been around for 8 years. I think I'd take 20 and run with it. It's Leno would get more. That's almost definite, but there's a reason for that. And yeah, I'd go with just Martinez had a nice couple of months. The team was so much more settled in front of him. Now I guess that's part of maybe some people's perspectives. Was that because of Martinez, or did he benefit from it? From the team just being more settled. If Leno was playing behind that group for the last 2 months, would that have made Leno look that much better? Because Leno was fantastic. So if we can get 20, just take it. He wants to go. You can't have two number one. We're not in a position as a team. We're not at the point where we have the luxury of having two number one type goalies, or goalkeepers. We need to get some other things done. So that's an easy way to get it started.
Rob, are you of the same mind as well? Because there's so many different sort of values that get thrown around regarding our players, and some just seem completely out of the world to where my head's kind of at with valuations. Do you think this is a £30 million player, or is 20 million about right?
I think 20 million at a push, to be honest. His contract is really low, right? So he's only being paid being paid 20 grand a week.
Yeah.
So because of that, that means that the payout from the club won't have to be very much if they end his contract early, which means the fee doesn't have to be that high. When you're buying a player, they have to pay the contract out. So I think he will be 18 to 20 million if we do a good deal. I think he could be worth a lot more money, maybe in a year, maybe two, probably a year, because if he was number one and he showed how good he's been the last few games, awesome, we could get more money, but we can't wait. We need to sell one of them right now, seemingly. And 20 million is probably about the right price, I think.
I suppose it's kind of catch-22, isn't it? Because you say there, and I agree with you, that if you play Martinez for another year, his value increases indefinitely. And the issue then is that your other keeper, Leno, his value then starts to diminish because he's not playing games, or if he is there in cup competitions, which is sort of enough to keep a goalkeeper kind of happy, but not enough really to increase their value significantly because the games are so spaced apart. And It's a weird conundrum that we're going to have to come up with. My head is telling me that we'll see Martinez move on this summer. To be honest, I feel like it could be even in the coming days if you're looking at an increased offer from Aston Villa being made. You should check out link in the description to the website, the article that was posted today about Emi Martinez. And I spoke to someone at The Athletic, and effectively they said that Arsenal see Villa's bid as suitable, was the word that they used. So it's possible that we do see the Martinez move on very, very soon, in which case it would be Leno being that number one for the rest of the season. And I guess we'll kind of go into season predictions in a little bit. But the other big bit of news, Carter, is on Aouar. I mean, first off, can we all pronounce Aouar's name correctly? I feel that that's something that every Arsenal fan needs to do these days, is learn how to pronounce Aouar's name. It's a really strange one, because you don't usually see like presidents of clubs coming out and directly saying what's going on between sort of the clubs that are there. I'm going to try and get up the quotes so that we can all see them on the screen. From our good friend Zed, who I'm sure most of you guys follow on Twitter these days. I don't know how you're getting your Arsenal news from if it's not from Zed. But he said, I get along very well with the sports director, Edu. We spoke on the phone. Sam Aouar is really appreciated by Arteta. And there have been some discussions about Matteo Guendouzi, who is also a good player, admitted, the Brazilian OL leader. But this is not the profile we need, and we're very clear. If it is like that, it does not interest us at all. It is, and we stopped negotiations basically as soon as Guendouzi was given to them, which is kind of information that we heard a while back. We heard that there was kind of a 35 million euro bid plus Guendouzi put forward, which was rejected, and it was kind of an unofficial bidding type of thing. What are your thoughts around the Frenchman, Carter? Is he someone that, I don't know how much you know about him as a player? You may have seen him in the Champions League or in Liga. Do you think he's someone that you would prioritise over a Thomas Partey? Is he a bigger need for Arsenal this summer?
I don't think so. We need Partey more than Aouar.
There we go.
So, I mean, because we say Aouar, like how you say ouch, that's how you say Aouar.
Okay.
That's how you say it in German. So I kind of get it from
that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, but Partey, he's more important than Aouar. But for us to make top four, I believe, for us to even hit like grace the top four, we need both Partey and Aouar. If not, it's again gonna be like at least in league, it's gonna be some Europa League position, and probably we might hit it off in the one-off games in the cups or probably in Europa League. But if we want to be consistent, we need both of them.
Yeah, I think it's important that Arsenal do look into bringing in as many sort of high-class players as possible. It's just the finances that I really kind of struggle to get my head around how we're going to do these things. Ed, if we know that these sort of creative positions centrally has been something that Arsenal have craved for reinforcement in. And when you look at what's available on the market and what we've already got, there's kind of a difference between the two, because what's available isn't available for a fee that Arsenal can really afford if they want to strengthen in other areas. And what have Arsenal then got? Well, they've got a young guy in Emile Smith-Rowe I have a lot of faith in. And then they've got Mesut Ozil, who is the complete other end of the spectrum in terms of the liking of the fan base, how consistent he is and how likely he is to play. So do you think that Arsenal have the potential this summer to go out and sign the positions that they need, i.e. a Thomas Partey, and still have enough money left over to go for someone like an Aouar?
I don't think both. But I kind of view the Willian move as maybe kind of kicking that can down the road a little bit and holding the position. If you seem to really like Smith-Rowe from what I've watched from you. So if he ends up really carrying on, that'll be great. But no, it would be great if they could get Aouar. But I think most people are in agreement. Partey is the guy. He just puts everyone else in the role. Everyone else fits in place, with a guy like him. He just gets the whole lineup looking more solid. So yeah, if they can somehow get the finances to get both, it seems really unlikely. But get Partey first, and then see if maybe they're clearly sticking with their 50 million on Partey, like on the release clause, from what everyone's saying. Yeah. So if it gets late, do they blink on Aouar and he comes? What is it, like they're talking 55, 60 right now? Yeah. Did they get nervous late and come down, that's maybe a way we could sneak in.
It would be dramatic if that happened. I feel we've talked about on the show. Obviously, Atletico's finances are in a ruin right now, worse than even Arsenal's, which is saying something. But that obviously puts them in a position where they've got a player that is worth more than his release clause right now in Thomas Partey. To me, he's worth more than that 50 million euro release clause. He's that good. But that then means that they're going to try and get as much money for him. And when you've got a release clause available, you can just throw your hands up and say, if you want him, that's the price, and you've got to pay that if you want to come and get him. And with the Aouar thing, Rob, is looking kind of at the the Guendouzi side of things. It's really strange because he came in as this young prodigy of a player when Unai Emery came in at first, and we thought, wow, this guy's going to be worth tens of millions in a few years' time with how good he looks to be and the potential he's shown, the fact he's been called up to the French national senior side before. And now we're trying to just barter him around Europe to anyone that will effectively take him. And no one's having any of it. I mean, Juninho's come out himself and said that he's just not the type of profile that Lyon are after. What are your thoughts about the Frenchman? Are you open to see him reintegrate into the team? Because he put a tweet out today saying that he's looking forward to coming back. Or are you of the mind that we need to move him on now?
You can improve a player when you talk about signings and so on. You can improve someone who's willing to work, has a good attitude, and so on, right? So when Giannini is talking about he's not the right profile for us, he's not talking about how he plays. He's talking about his attitude. And that's why we can't shift him. That's the big problem for us right now. I mean, who would take him even on loan if they think he's not going to be working hard and training and acting like the big who I am, especially when he talks about his wages maybe when he comes off the pitch. And it's a real problem. It's a real problem for the club. Like I just don't see who would honestly take him right now, simply because of that attitude issue. If Arteta somehow works on it, enables him back in, but under, I manage people myself under strict, you're told what to do. This is how you to do it. If you want to get back in the team, this is what you're doing. A la certain players who've commented back into the fold for us previously. If he does that, that could maybe help. And maybe 6 months, a year, we could sell him. And I think that's maybe the club is thinking. Maybe we'll just have to grin and bear it, try and reintegrate in the team in some way with these strict conditions that this is your last chance saloon, and then part ways with him. Because at the minute, I don't see who would take him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, kind of seeing how different fans perceive Guendouzi. I've seen some different opinions on social media today. Let's see what some of the guys in the chat box are saying. Christopher Fung, another one of our long-term members, says Guendouzi did look good for sort of the France under-21 side, and he's actually changed his attitude there, and he's been welcomed back. But I have yet to see anything from him that suggests otherwise. And Arteta kind of talked about the clean slate that he's given players. And Carter, it's an interesting one for me when it comes to Arteta and that, because when Arteta came in, it was very much, this is the way things are going to be. If you can't behave in a certain way, you're not going to be in the team. So does it surprise you in a way that Arteta is now opening up things in terms of clean slates and turning over new leaves, and with Ozil and Guendouzi? Is it a surprise to you that there's a small U-turn in that direction?
Yeah, I guess there are two things to this. Number one is they got to know nobody's looking at taking Guendouzi, and Ozil is not going to leave us. So looking at that, so of course he's going to say he's going to give a clean slate to these people because these people are not at all leaving. It's prominent that somebody wants to stay and finish his contract, and the other one, nobody wants him. So in that case, he has to say that, okay, I'm going to give him a clean, give everybody a clean slate. And if that is the case, why is Socrates leaving? If that is the case, why are they looking at moving on Pereira? Like, I think we should keep everyone in the team and give everyone a clean slate if that is the case. I don't see that happening. It's just because these two players, nobody's looking at them. We rather play Guendouzi for a year, probably increase his actual value and get some money for him and move on. So Arteta has to take a step back and okay, you know what? I have people know what I want. If in a case, if I have to create business for the club and the way to do it, he needs to play Guendouzi and probably create some value for him so that he can go on certain money. And if he has a say on transfer, I guess it's his duty to also take up this responsibility of making certain players better so that we can sell them on for a good value. you know?
Yeah, I do know exactly what you mean. I get the idea of giving everyone a clean slate and then to players like Socrates and Torreira given a chance. I think that's a really good point to bring up. When in reality, no, it's just not going to happen. Then they're seen as players that are the most sellable assets at the club for Arsenal. Torreira just hasn't quite grasped the Premier League since Emery moved him out of position, and then has no chance really of getting back into this Arteta side with how good Xhaka and Ceballos have been in that centre midfield role. And with links to the likes of a player like Thomas Partey, he's going to have no hope. So you would think it makes complete sense to move him on. Socrates, he's a high wage. He's not going to be worth a lot in terms of actual transfer value, but getting that wage of 100k plus off the wage bill is really important. That kind of closes off the transfer side. I want to talk to you guys about how you're feeling ahead of the new season, because it's less than a week away, believe it or not. It feels like yesterday that we were just winning the FA Cup, which is a great feeling, and we shouldn't understate how great a feeling it is to be the highest winning team in that competition. But a new season presents its own challenges, and we haven't really done too much in the market to really bleed confidence amongst the entire fan base. Some good things have happened. Willian coming in as Ed, you mentioned earlier, in kind of a creative role. I'd like that a lot. I like seeing that there's links to him being versatile and just adding depth to the team. I remember doing shows when we were linked to him, and it was so split down the middle about who would want Willian to come in. There were Coutinho links at the time. And now he's in. Of course, we've got Gabriel Magalhaes, if you want to pronounce his name incorrectly, like I just did. And he's obviously a centre-back. We've been desperate to sign a proper sort of high-profile centre-back for a long time. Loads of teams wanted this guy. Arsenal got him. And then we've also got the exciting youngster, William Saliba, finally arriving at Arsenal after a year at Saint-Etienne. Do just these signings excite you for this season? Or are you still just kind of yearning for another one just to tip you over the edge?
Well, I don't think we're ready to go yet, fully. But yeah, I think Partey gets done. I really do.
You heard it here first.
Very likely.
Ed's telling us. Partey is done.
Some guy sitting in his basement in New York just broke news. But yeah, I think that deal gets done. I like the moves they've done. I don't. It's just starting to feel like they are a team. There's very few guys in the league that you just know they're the best at their position, right? They're Van Dijk, De Bruyne, maybe Alisson for some people, but there's that second tier of guys, right? Like really great players who maybe like you as a fan, you wouldn't trade them for anyone else, right? Like your guy, you know, like Aubameyang is probably in that level. If not, I think a lot of people would think he was the best. I think we got a guy like that in Tierney, even though some might say he's not the best left back in Scotland, but I wouldn't trade him for anyone. I love the guy. I feel like Pepe might become one of those kind of guys. And if one of these center backs does it for no reason at all, I feel like Saliba is more likely than Gabriel for nothing. I don't know why, but he just the look of him, just to watching the highlights. I like the way the guy moves. I like the way he looks. I feel like if that move, you get one or two of those guys every year, and last year, Saka came out of nowhere, relatively anyway, to be the level he is. Another guy, and Partey is another guy that would be in that group, where if he's on a team, you wouldn't move him for anyone else in that position in the Premier League. So, once we get to 4 or 5 guys like that, then all of a sudden we're competitive, much more so than maybe in the prior years where you're walking in with such obvious flaws on defense and really midfield too. So, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
Rob, there's an interesting comment in the chat I want to highlight from Nick, who says, "Oh, come on, centre-backs are not exciting signings." Now, I would question, Nick, how long you've been a fan of Arsenal. Because Arsenal signing 2 centre-backs for more than 50 million quid combined is, to me, exciting because we've been desperate for reinforcing quality in that area. Does Gabriel and Saliba, of course, give you kind of that hope that maybe the focus can be on how good our attack is for once during a season, rather than how likely it is we concede silly goals?
They're both young guys, right? They've got a lot to learn still. This league is a new league to them. What I would say is, I don't like talking Chelsea at all on an Arsenal podcast, but Frank Lampard came out. I don't know if you guys have heard, this is from a while ago, that he doesn't do set-piece training. You just need big guys. Seriously, he did come out and say this. So he doesn't bother with it. if you look at the pictures of Gabriel and Saliba walking, Arsenal just released the training videos from, I think, earlier on today. Yeah. And Saliba and him are walking towards the rest of the players. And Gabriel looks massive. And Saliba's even bigger.
It's huge. Saliba is massive.
So, set pieces, we should be better, especially with our new Brentford coach. I think that's another thing that, we need to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit later on, that we're looking at improving our set pieces, because under Emery we were pretty good. Under Arteta we were quite poor. Personally, I'm optimistic for these two. One, look, Gabriel was wanted by a lot of clubs. Partly also, I think, because his price isn't exorbitant. It's not 50, 60 million. We're not talking Koulibaly here. We're talking 27, which actually, Leicester maybe could have been in to buy him, or Everton. As well as Man United and so on, So obviously really pleased to get him, and then Saliba, like I said, just really promising youngsters.
It would be amiss to go into a new season without kind of looking around us at what our rivals have done. And I suppose, Rob, as you brought up Chelsea, Carter, I'm gonna throw this one at you. I'm a little bit scared. I'm not going to lie, but seeing the likes of Timo Werner and Kai Havertz and these guys joining Chelsea, it worries me. I think it would be weird if it didn't worry a fan of a rival club. You see that Liverpool haven't really strengthened as of yet. Thiago is maybe the most likely that we'll see join them this season as they try to defend their first title for 30 years. And then Manchester City are just kind of doing their thing at the moment. We're waiting to see if Koulibaly will join. That is an area of them that they needed to desperately strengthen in. And those are the three teams that are, in my mind, I'm going, they're going to be top four. And then it kind of comes down to ourselves, Manchester United, who are still doing some very decent business. And it's a bit of a miss to see if they didn't get Jadon Sancho in, if they didn't add to their left-back position, Alex Telles and Reguilon being linked consistently. You look at Spurs, I'm not as worried about Spurs, I feel, this year. They just don't, and I'm not just saying it in a biased sense, but they aren't worrying me as much. You've got Everton that are strengthening quite a lot. And then, of course, you've got the new boys to the sort of the crew with Leicester and Wolves, and to a lesser extent, Sheffield United up there as well. How are you feeling in regards to the teams around us, and who's scaring you the most, and who do you think we need to tip to get into that top four?
See, if we have to tip, the only person in the top four we can tip is probably Man United. That's the only team. And Chelsea, Liverpool, and Man City are going to fight it out. But Chelsea are going to have vulnerabilities because the donkey Rudiger is still playing there with them.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a huge problem for them. But whatever it is, they still got Thiago Silva, who might add experience. But Premier League is not easy to adapt for an older guy. Because even we got David Luiz, but David Luiz has been dog shit for a long time, except for few one-off matches. Considering that they are the ones who are really, the only person who we can catch up to is Man United. That too, we can only do it if we sign both Aouar and Partey. If only one of them come, it's going to be really hard. But if we try it in such a way, for example, let's say we are trying to get used to, our new defender get used to the Premier League, and we are playing three at the back and Ainsley playing right wing back and Tierney taking over left. I guess rather than playing Laka through the middle, why don't we play Willian and Auba and Pepe come through the wing? So I guess Willian can create chances from the back and he can drag back the defenders too. Laka does link up play with Auba, but Laka doesn't have that passing prowess as much as Willian,
I agree with you. I think. No, go on. Sorry, carry on. I'm jumping the gun.
That's cool. You can jump in. If considering that, if at all we are looking to go that way and Laka comes off, let's say Laka is playing at the first half and then Laka comes off and Willian comes and starts playing centrally, we have more chance of creating more shot at creating chances and probably scoring more goals. But if at all, I believe this year if we have to cash in, Laka should go, Torreira should go, Sokratis should go, Kolasinac should go, and Bellerin should go. These are the 5 people who should go for me. And out of that, 3 people can bring us cash, which is Laka, Torreira, and Bellerin. But I don't know what Arsenal is going to do because they have always been disappointing us. Yeah, and most of the time, if I remember, last year too, we were linked with Tierney for a long time and Pepe for a long time. Even Ornstein said, "Okay, Arsenal don't have money to buy Pepe," but we ended up spending more than 115 million pounds that year, I believe, including Martinelli and other signings. We are deadline FC. I'm 100% sure we are deadline FC. We are only going to do this easier deals first, and any hard deals we push it to the deadline, and on deadline day we just pay some money and get them done unless and until it's not like above 80 million or 90 million, we just get it done. But I feel if that is the case, if Arsenal is looking at that way, hopefully both of them come. I'm just trying to be positive and not really just say like Arsenal is dog shit, Arsenal is always because
Yeah.
we have been doing that for years together. So let me just be positive because I do see players want to play for this particular manager because he's almost their similar age. He understands them. He's playing in the team. He understands football. He understands how manager react, how players react when fans are not really supporting them. He understands that probably that might be really helpful. But apart from that, if we don't sign anyone and it stays as it is, now we are going to finish seventh, and that's going to be the biggest improvement. And we probably going to say back Arteta Kroenke out all over again, and that's going to start. That's a repeat saga of yeah.
It's funny you bring up Tierney there because I feel like if people knew how good he actually was, can you imagine the meltdown during that last summer window? If people really knew how good he was and how long it took for us to get that deal done, it would have been pandemonium on social media. But thankfully, he was still quite a little bit unknown by a lot of people, so it didn't quite go down the same way we're seeing with Partey, for instance, this summer. We're going to jump into some of the questions in the chat box and get you guys to answer some of them. It's always good that we throw to our chat box, otherwise you guys would not be here this evening. So let's go through these. If you could try and keep your answers as quick as possible, more than one word would be best, but try and keep them as quick as you can because we've got quite a few to get through. So Adam Turtle, Ed, this question for you says, would you sell Leno to Chelsea for a silly amount of money?
Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone's definition of silly is different, but one or the other is going to go. So
yeah.
Be open to
it.
Sure.
I was surprised Chelsea weren't in for him at the start of the window because of how much they've needed to keep it. It seems they're now going to be bringing in, I believe it's Mendy, is it, from Rennes? It looks very, very likely. So it's going to be interesting to see who they do actually get into that Kepa. And I've got a mare in fantasy football because I've got Martinez and Kepa as my two keepers at the moment, and both of them now look a bit dodgy. So I may need to change that around very, very soon.
You might be in for a rough year.
Yes, I will. And to be fair, I did all right last year, but yeah, I'm going to have to change some things. Omar Rob says, so you think Europa League is our best avenue to Champions League football next season, or do we think it's worthy of going for top four?
I think so. I think we'd have to go for it as best we can. I think when we talk about Chelsea strengthening so much, I think they've changed 5 of their first 11 now, and they haven't finished. That's not scary for us in terms of maybe that they won't win the league or something, but it's just securing that top 4. So like you said, it's like there's one place maybe left for 3 massive clubs, or 2 massive clubs and one not so big one. So yeah, I think definitely this season Arteta will go for the Europa League.
I am kind of with you there. I think that's the best route for us, the most likely route anyway of achieving that. It's a tough competition. I mean, you've seen Manchester United, who were favourites easily, get knocked out by Sevilla, who then went on to beat Inter Milan, who again were favourites. Teams can come out of nowhere that aren't necessarily the favourites for the competition and steal it. So it's still a tough one. But when you look at the competition for top 4, it just seems the most likely route into it. Christopher Fung, Carter, question for you, says, pick one academy player to break through into the first team this coming season via the Cups and Europa, and other first teamers who will break through the most in year 2 under Arteta.
Who will break through from the kids? What's the kid who got the scholarship? What's his name?
Is it Cotterell? Yeah, Cotterell. We've got Salah Ad-Din. We've got George Lewis. There's loads of players available.
I don't see them coming. I have a feeling Arteta is going to give a run of games for that Ballard guy. That kid looks a good defender. He's Irishman. He looks like a good defender. He's like a commanding defender in the back. He tries to take care of people. He tries to maintain the lines. He does his job. He's like, I want to stick to basics. I want to play football. So in that way, Arteta might give him a run of games, probably in cup games at least. You know, in that
Yeah.
case, that would be the kid I would be looking for. And other kid is, as I mentioned, Ben Cuttle. I mean, like he's small right now, but he might light some fires. I don't know. Maybe that is the guy I'm looking at.
The young Salah kid really excites me. I've seen some videos now and watched him. They're actually playing tonight, the under-21s, I think it is, against Ipswich in the EFL Cup. It is available to watch. You had to pay a tenner, so it's probably not worth jumping on it now. But you can actually watch it on Ipswich's website if you wanted to check it out. I'm sure I'll be able to catch the highlights from somewhere. But yeah, Salah's playing, Balogun's playing, McGuinness is playing. So there's quite a few players. Olayinka is a young player that the club rate very highly too. And yeah, we've got some really exciting guys coming through. So it'd be interesting to see who gets a chance to break out. Jared Carver, who of course was an expert member who's had his time on the show as well, and he's still come back for more, saying, hey guys, if we sign just Partey or Aouar, where do you think we finish in the league this season?
I would think Partey could sneak us into fourth. Our seems a little bit less impactful to me. So fighting fourth, fifth, I think, if it's just our.
I kind of agree with you. I think that Partey is that transformative, that he could transform Arsenal into a team with the additions in defence that we've already made, with the form of Ainsley Maitland-Niles possibly being a right-back option too, and how good, of course, we know Tierney to be. I think there is a chance that Partey is that missing piece of the puzzle for the midfield, and we still lack creativity. We do, but I like what I'm seeing from Emile Smith-Rowe to be that kind of number 8/10 in front of those Xhaka and Partey. So it's going to be interesting to see what those guys do.
Would you say that too about Mainsley? Just what he.
Yes.
And if we get money for Bellerin, I say great. You know, if I feels like one of them should probably go, but I say keep Mainsley, not just for you because you seem like you would really struggle with that. But
yeah,
we'll say what he does for Pepe. Pepe is a different player with Mainsley than he is with Bellerin for me. So defensively, I don't think either of them are very good. Bellerin should go to PSG because they always have the ball. But they, so yeah, if just based on what Pepe could do with Mainsley every game, yeah, I say keep him around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the combination of Mainsley and Pepe is more exciting, is more malleable than the one between Bellerin and Pepe. It just seems a little bit more disjointed when those two are on the pitch together. So hopefully the former will be the ones that connect up a lot more. Rodney says, when do you see Arsenal being able to compete for the Champions League? I need the Champions League, guys, is what he's saying. He's desperate. Oh, you're muted, Rob. You're muted. That's not me this time. You can't blame me for that one. That was
you. I like the idea of Arteta's 3-year plan that he sold to Willian, that we would win it by then. I like the idea of that. Maybe perhaps a bit unrealistic, but like you said, in cup competitions, you never know. I think for myself, I think we need to build for that goal 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. But if we do it in 3, 4, start to be competing properly by then, that'd be awesome. And that comes into, I think that's part of the decision making with signing Partey or Aouar, because Partey's 27 and Aouar's 22. So there might be a discussion on age, right? In terms of when are we going to be actually competing for the Champions League and so on by then.
Yeah, the 3-year thing is so funny to me. I just couldn't believe it when I read those quotes that some 3-year plan to win the not even get back in, but just actually win it is so unrealistic. It's a joke. But I love the ambition. You can't knock it whatsoever. Machiavelli Carter says, do you think it's difficult for us to sell our players because clubs think that we make all these millions in revenue each season that they can afford to lowball us to sell below the market value?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Probably that's the whole reason. And Arsenal have been like, I recently heard in news that they're letting go Socrates. He wants to break his contract, and they're willing to do that because he had an understanding with Arsenal. or something like that. So yeah, and people just bully us because most of the players which we have got now, because of all these high wages we put them on, and they don't turn up, like except maybe one or two people. Because of that, what happens is, and no bigger clubs are looking at signing these players. Only lower clubs are looking at signing them, and they're not willing to pay the money. And it's, of course, that makes sense. Like for example, if Bayern Munich, Juventus, PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, or people like this are looking into teams or into Milan and all those people, then it makes sense. Like, oh, okay, these people are legit. They're going to pay a lot of money and sign them, but others they won't pay you. Especially, and if considering that we have screwed around with Napoli a lot, so we can leave Socrates on for free. I don't mind that.
Yeah,
but consider,
they can have him.
but apart from that, yeah, probably. But it's good that I see that Arsenal are sticking to the valuation for both Kolasinac and Torreira. I think that's a good thing to do. And also, apparently, people are in for Bellerin, and there is like Leverkusen and PSG, and like if hopefully that heats up and PSG, we need that kind.
I think that the biggest problem we've got at the moment, like with selling, is that the players that we're being linked away with aren't being linked to multiple clubs. Like you look at what happened with Gabriel, the teams that were in for him drove the price up. And even though, Rob, you were saying earlier, the price that Gabriel went for wasn't excessive, it was still more than maybe he would have been worth. Was it just Arsenal or just Napoli that was in for him? Because it wasn't. It drove the price up. When you look at Torreira, even though there's two clubs seemingly in Fiorentina and Torino, they're not the most wealthy clubs in the world, so that's not going to drive the price up. With Martinez, it's Villa and then some clubs in Spain like Getafe and Villarreal that have shown interest, so that's not going to drive the price up. And then you look at Kolasinac, it seemingly is only really Schalke at first, and that's kind of gone cold because it was only a loan deal being discussed. And now I see Roma as a possible destination after Kolarovas today joined into Milan. So there's not enough interest from multiple teams that's public. There might be private conversations going on, but only the public information that gets shared drives up those prices. So I think that's probably the biggest reason as to why you're seeing these teams lowball our players so much this season. We'll go for one more final round between everyone before we wrap things up. Ed, I'm going to try and combine two questions for you. I promise it won't be too difficult. Kitchener says, why are people so obsessed with Partey? Didn't we scream about a creative midfielder last season? I don't remember anyone asking for a DM. Everyone wanted someone like Aouar. He should be the priority. And then I'll add in Owen's question of, does the obvious willingness to sell centre mids instill confidence in you that we will upgrade in that position?
I guess, yeah, so two different things, I guess. Partey is just, the team is a lot different than it was last year. So, I mean, we're Arsenal fans. We're going to scream about something every year. It might be something different next year, but that's just kind of our way. But yeah, if you look at how the team performed in the last, since the break or since they came back from lockdown and stuff, it was, you had a great video on Granit Xhaka, but realistically, we need some more steel in that area. So yeah, I think again, if you look at Martinelli, we didn't realize Martinelli was going to be what he is. Granted, he's going to be out for another few months, but we've got so many options up front, and now Willian and Smith Rowe can fill a role. I hope Ozil doesn't fill much of a role, but if we're willing to sell Guendouzi, no one will take him, but I don't know. You look at Torreira. It was really like within the first 6 months he was here, there were already stories about him being homesick and not really liking the London life and stuff. So I'd kind of never thought he was long for the team. So yeah, I mean, we have to sell to make some money to get some other things in. But the team is so much different than it was last summer in every way. That yeah, it's a different cry out for this year. But I think that's a healthy thing because we've developed so much.
Yeah, me too. Rob, Colorado Guna says, do you think that Aubameyang is going to score over or under 22 goals in the league this season? And sort of with the contract situation, I suppose, as well. Do you think that's going to have any impact on the start of the season, how he might perform? Oh, he's muted again. That's twice. I'm going to start calling you out on this, son.
Apologies. If you just asked that question, will he score over 22 goals or under? I would say yes, he will. That's the confidence I have in him. With the other issues that we've got going on, right? He still hasn't signed the contract officially. We might be overusing him this season because it depends on the situation with Lacazette. Is he still going to be here? Is Nketiah going to be playing a lot of matches? What's the situation with rotation between Pepe, Williams, Smith Rowe, Ozil, and so on, if Ozil plays, as you mentioned? But yeah, I'm confident that we'll still be looking for him for a lot of our goals, a la kind of Robin van Persie many years ago.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how many goals he does score. The contract situation is a worry. I'm surprised nothing has yet. I'm still confident that it is sort of done, but the longer it just sort of lingers, you can't help as a human being to fill your mind with that element of doubt that maybe something isn't as what it seems. But I'm just so sure that this is just something we need to just be patient for, and it is going to happen. Last one then from Patrick for Carter. He says, why do we send so many youngsters out on loan? Who's going to play in those Europa League games?
I mean, we do have a lot of youngsters who are back, like Emil Smith, so I guess only John Jules went to loan, and the other kids, they did not even feature in our team, and they were actually just playing youth level, and they just got loan deals and they moved on. So I don't see the only person who would probably get a shot is the only one who's moving on, and rest of the other people here, and that's not a huge problem, and we are doing a good thing by giving these people more so that they get more experience and they develop more uh, what do you say, to develop more character, and they have the grit inside them. I guess I see that happening. And also, if Arsenal are a smart negotiations, do they have their smart people on the board? The first thing they would do is probably send out fake news about Alba being linked to Barcelona or Real Madrid, so that we fake news like, yeah, we have to sell Alba to raise some funds to get new midfielders. That's going to be a huge problem. We can only afford Lacazette or something like that. We have to make sure so that we can lowball Leon or Atletico. We have to do something. I don't know business negotiation skills I've got. So in that sense, probably it might work for them. Just send out news in such a way people think, oh, okay, that's when we can. You are in dire need, so you need some money. Take this. We can only afford. I mean, that's how you pay off people, also.
Yeah, of course. I don't necessarily agree with the comment about selling or sending so many youngsters. I don't think I mean, if you look at Chelsea and how many they send out on loan, we're minute compared to that. And so far, we've sent out Mavropanos, who's gone off to Stuttgart, and John Jules, I think we mentioned, who's gone off to Doncaster today. And beyond that, I'm trying to think of anyone else that's gone. Oh, Zach Medley and Trey Coyle have gone to Gillingham, of course. I should know that because they're my local side. And Matt Smith has gone. But I don't look at those guys and think, yeah, they would have been starting in the Europa League this season. If you genuinely look how big our squad is, it's mental. Like, we have so many players in the team. A lot of them you wouldn't consider to be first teamers, but we've still got so many. We still have to shift some. And if that doesn't happen, they are going to need to be used. And Europa League presents an opportunity in the group stages for us to do that, I think. So we're going to wrap things up there. Sorry, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, one last question so that...
Yeah, go for it, mate. Go for it.
My question is, are we... it slipped out of my mind.
That's all right, mate. No, that's fine. I mean, there's so many things we discussed this evening. It's a case of you look at what's available to Arsenal ahead of this new season. It does boil down to who we bring in, I really think. But I'm going to press you guys as we wrap up for a league finish prediction. Yeah, I'm going to be that guy that puts you under pressure. So if you could, when you wrap up, just tell people where they can find you, and then tell people what you think the league position will be at Arsenal finishing this season. So Ed, we're going to start with you, mate. I know you've not been on Twitter too long. Do you remember your Twitter handle at this point?
I think it's Ed Sager 26.
It is Ed Sager 26,
I believe.
Yes.
There you go. Nail that. I signed up a solid 24 hours ago just to.
He doesn't know what he's in for.
It's a cesspool. But I'm picking. I think they're going to finish.
Awesome. I'm loving the positivity there. Rob, tell people where they can find you with your very, very well used username, I should say. It's perfect for the diversity in your heritage, shall we say?
Yeah, so my handle is the Irish Serb guy. Also, Instagram is that Irish Serbian guy. It's a little bit different, but yeah, you can find me on there. As mentioned, Very exotic background, as it were. I'm thinking fifth, and anything better is an absolute joy.
Yeah, I'm kind of. I agree with both of you in the sense that anything beyond fifth is amazing. But you know me, Mr. Optimism. I'm going for that fourth place. Carter, tell people where they can find you. You have got the pleasure, of course, of not being on Twitter. You lucky boy. Ed does not know what he's in for, but tell people they can find you on Instagram and where you think we're going to finish.
Okay, Carter Stage at Instagram. You can always find me on my comments. My name pops up sometimes. That's the same name on my Instagram also. And I have, if at all, if you want to find me, if there are a lot of Carter Stage, because Santa is for life. Santa is amazing. And yeah, that's my Instagram handle. And I hate Twitter because I was there and there's so many news going around. It just bugs transfer pages.
Yeah.
And
so what
we
about
are going to probably finish if we sign both Awar and Pass fourth. But if we don't sign them both, we are going to finish seventh.
Wow, seventh. That is a big difference depending on one or
Arsenal don't have consistency. I remember them restart preseason. They won the first match 6-0. They lost the second match 3-2 to Brentford. And they came back, they got beat by Man City 3-0 and 2-1 by Brighton. They went on a winning, halted by Leicester City 1-1. So they lost confidence against Tottenham. Tottenham just lopped the ball over them, and Harry Kane ran all over.
We don't want to focus on that.
Yeah, anyway. I've seen this. Like us playing 3 matches and then capitulating and playing bad for next 3 matches. There's no consistency. But they're good at one-off matches. So I see Arteta concentrating more on doing well at Europa. So if we don't get anyone, and that is the way to go, I see that's the only way which is happening. So 7th in the league if we don't sign anyone. If we sign both Awar and Partey, I can see 4th.
I am hoping that our optimism about 4th place is correct. There's a lot of people with lots of different views I'm seeing in the chat. Yannick, I don't think we're going to win the league, mate. I'm not that optimistic. William thinks we'll win the Champions League in 3 years, let alone me thinking we're going to win the league this year. You look at what's around us, it's going to be a real tough ask. But what hasn't been a tough ask is how good my guests this evening have been tonight. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. It's amazing because you should go and watch back how comfortable you get after the first 10 minutes. We're a little bit like, oh, this is a bit weird. This is a bit new. And then by the end of the show, you're pros by the end of it. So thank you, first of all, to Carter, mate. Really appreciate you coming on, son.
Hey, thank you. It was great. It was really nice talking to all of you and sharing good experience. And probably I might be wrong about so many of them. Probably I might be right about them. So at the end of the day, football is all about opinions. So.
Exactly. Well
Thank
said,
you,
mate. It is all about opinions. No problem, mate. Absolute pleasure. Ed, I feel a bit bad for you because I've now meant that you've downloaded Twitter. I keep bringing this up, but I cannot state the jungle that you have just entered. Carter's got the right idea. Thank you, though, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come on.
Yeah, thanks. Nice talking to everyone, and thanks to the community for being so kind to us in the comments and things. So nice meeting everybody.
Yes, I do maintain that we genuinely have such a brilliant community of followers over here on the show, and everyone is so supportive of everyone that comes on. So thank you, chat box, once again. And finally, Rob, thank you for your time this evening. You've been fantastic, as have the other guys.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tom. Finally alert not to mute my mic. so I got that. I got the word in without.
It's so easy done. And the thing is,
I do apologise.
Drew just goes from
yeah. And I promised to get the shirt framed soonish.
Yes, and you need to post that on Twitter and let us know because it needs to be done. No problem at all. And yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. Avon says in the chat there, thank you for our guests. They've been great. So as it says, and as it's rolling along the bottom of your screen there, if you genuinely think you can hold your own on the show like these boys can, then make sure you help supporting the channel by joining up as an expert member. You can come on the show. You get access to exclusive content. Next week, our Plus and expert members are getting their exclusive interview with Raf. I'm really looking forward to talking to Raf again. It feels like it's been ages. And then you, of course, also get your exclusive expert interview as well with a journalist or ex-pro or someone like that. So I'm looking forward to our guest this month as well. It's going going to be a cracker. So again, thank you to the lads. Make sure you check out their socials. I'll put them in the description at the end of the show. We will see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.